All right. Okay, so we are live, and unfortunately, we have our power out. Me and Fuzzy are kind of sitting in the dark um, on our phones, but we're gonna do this. So we have Kaneda and we have Mr. Boomstick with us. Dreadpool hopefully will come in shortly. So Fuzzy, you want to help with intros? Can y'all hear me?
Yep,
Okay. Where's Fuzzy?
he's muted.
Oh, he's
Sorry,
muted.
I'm up here rambling and didn't realize I was on mute. I do apologize. No, I just want to start by thanking everybody for joining us tonight. I know it's a little bit of a weird circumstance with the power outage and stuff that we're going through, but glad everybody can make it. We got two awesome guests with us now. Hopefully, Dreadpool comes in a little bit later, but I want to start off,
He's here.
letting
Deadpool's
the
Dread's
here.
already
special guests
here.
introduce themselves. Dreadpool's here. Oh, awesome! So we got three awesome special guests here tonight to talk about zombies and everything, and kind of just go over old zombie movies versus new. But let's start off with Mr. Boomstick. Just let everybody know where they can find you and some of your favorite horror genre type movies and things like that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on episode 2 of your new podcast, and of course, obviously, Ferocious Feed. This is your horror podcast, and it's an honor to be here. I work with Fuzzy twice a week, so it's always great to now to stop by your guys' podcast. I'm Mr. Boomstick XL. I think everyone knows that already. Some of my favorite horror go all the way back. I'm an '80s horror guy. As much as horror is now. I think that it's more terror than it is horror. I'm a big fan of the Thing, John Carpenter specifically. John Carpenter's The Thing, but I do like the original black and white one, which was pretty good. My favorite series of all time, of The Evil Dead, and it goes in the order of Evil Dead 2, 1, and 3. If I had to rank them. It's
That
where
sounds about
Mr.
accurate.
Boomstick actually came from. This is my boomstick. I'm a big fan of Ash Williams as a character. And Yeah, I like a lot of the '80s campy horror. I like the Friday the 13th. I like, of course, Halloween. I do like a lot of the new stuff, but like I said, I'm an older guy, so I appreciate the '80s horror. But yeah, that's I can't wait to get into it. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome, greatly appreciate it. Let's also switch over to Dreadpool. Thank you for joining us tonight. Let everybody know about yourself as well as some of your favorite genre films and things like that as well. Wait, Dread, are you on mute?
It's my first time. Don't worry about it. No, I was gonna say I've known Fuzzy for a while. We've worked together doing several podcasts here and there, obviously with Boom,
Of
and
course.
it's just so yeah, it's great to be here, and honored, episode number 2, and for those that don't know, I'm Dreadpool. I do all sorts of things. Just anything that piques my interest, that's where I'm at. But horror is like one of them. We do a haunted house, so we actually spook out a trail, and so I do videos going to places, also sponsoring our own place, and so when it comes to movies, Evil Dead is definitely one of them, and I agree with the exact same order that Boom said, and that's why I have dreadites. I don't know why if you guys haven't noticed, but dreadites are my version of deadites.
Yeah.
So one of those things. But yeah, we're talking about Michael Myers. We're talking about Freddy. We're talking about the classics. To me, those were the classics I grew up with. Obviously, it's your black and white classics, but to me, it was like that was the old stuff. This is our stuff.
Hmm.
So that's and watching the campiness back then was to me wasn't campy, but even Return of the Living Dead, what as campy as it wasn't campy as some of the stuff that we watch today.
Yeah.
So it's great to see the differences, and at the same time, I can't believe I'm watching this. So, but yeah, it's blood and gore, all that stuff. Whatever we can do to keep it entertaining, and good storylines. Sometimes you don't need a storyline as long as it moves. But yeah, what other? Trying to think. I mean, it's just there's not one particular thing that I like about horror. It's just a culmination of it. You know what I mean? And at the same time, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the horror family is very, very thick, and they all stick together. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
welcoming. So keep in mind for you newcomers into the horror stuff. So keep that in mind.
Awesome. Greatly appreciate that. And Kaneda, let everybody know where you're from and some of the horror stuff that you're into as far as films and whatnot.
I'm from Canada. Your neighbors to the north. You are our pants, and I'm just a gamer. I'm a reviewer. I've been doing it for like 15 years as a hobby. I really don't get paid for it. I don't really try that hard to do it. I just get to do it, and I started doing like video or movie reviews. You can find me mostly on Twitter at Xbox Canadian. Sometimes I will do a review and post it to YouTube, although I've been kind of slacking. It's summer. We have short summers here. So I've been enjoying a lot of the weather. As far as horror movies go, I mean, I'm a kid of the 80s, man. I was raised by multiple fathers. Their names are Jason, Michael, Freddie, all them. They're Leatherface. They're all my guys. Asking me to pick my favorite is like asking me to pick which child I like the most. I'm not gonna. It depends on the day, which series I like the best. I do still enjoy modern horror. I like the smarter horror movies. Like I love the Scream franchise. I think it's phenomenal. Kevin Williamson is actually one of my favorite writers and has been since the first movie came out. Horror movies just kind of for me always just were fun. It was like for me as a kid, because like I think I saw my first movie when Christine came out on VHS, so I was probably like 6 or 7 years old maybe, and I just got hooked on horror since. And it was like I'm watching an adult type film. There's swearing in it, there's blood in it, there's nudity and sex in it. Like this is stuff that I'm not supposed to see, but I'm seeing it. And that was really, I guess, where the seed got planted. What I love about horror film is the sex, the violence, the the swearing, and sometimes if it's a good story, I love that too. One of my favorite, I guess, horror characters, it's got to be werewolves, and I don't think they get near enough love from Hollywood or any filmmakers even today. I still say that American Werewolf in London is the definitive werewolf film and the very best wolf to man transformation, and nobody's been able to top it. And for some reason, I don't know, man. I hope somebody one day will do it, because I don't see it happening. Even with the CGI as good as it is now, it still looks pretty crappy in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of the filmmakers, it's almost like they need to go back to the original ways of how to film stuff versus the CGI of today. I mean, the CGI in some cases is pretty good, but like the more the makeup and time spent on like character design and stuff like that, I think is where it's at. But awesome intro about that. Some actually good news, although it may be
You're
weird
cutting
as
in and
far
out
as
a lot,
the
though, Buzz.
when you're looking for the. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just you're cutting in and out a lot. It's really hard to hear you. I don't know if you got like
So
it's like what was
better
happening
spot in the
earlier
room.
today. It's like, well, when you started out originally on BWB, you sounded great, and now it's like you can't barely hear you.
yeah. So Fuzzy, is it possible that you can get on your computer now since the lights are on and stuff? I think we probably hear you better. How does everybody hear me?
Oh, you sound great. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. Because I can stay on the phone and stuff, but if he can get on his computer, that'd probably be better for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, so I'm gonna let him. Yeah, I'm gonna let him in later. Okay, so everybody that he was here last time probably knows me. I'm Ferocious. I know I've worked with Kaneda before, but Dreadpool and Mr. Boomstick have heard a lot about you from Fuzzy, but I've never actually met you yet. And I know Dreadpool's mad at me because of the movie I picked.
You're muted
You're
again.
on mute, Dreadpool?
You
There
notice
he
the
is.
long gray beard? It doesn't always mean wisdom.
No, it means forgetfulness.
It means we're
So-
old,
That's right.
man. I
Yeah,
got a gray beard right here.
Yeah.
Just
I've
old.
only had a few hours sleep. I've been up since 8 o'clock last night. I started work. I got
Yikes.
home at like 12, like right before 12, right before I thought, because I was going to try to join on with Boomstick's show, but he cut out early, and then I passed out. I just woke up, so some of it, yeah, little tiredness, but I'm not mad at you. I just want my 2 hours back.
I'm so sorry. But I think some of the things that we're going to discuss are probably going to show people why you want your 2 hours back. Give me 1 second. I just want to go turn off the alarm. It pops on sometimes. Hold on.
Yeah, Dread.
Yeah.
It's just one of those days. It's just everybody was either called in for work or got stuck because of the computer
Yeah.
glitch, right? And it just these poor folks had no power since Tuesday, which is unbelievable. So we did an hour show and we got out of Dodge.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was unfortunate Fuzzy had that microphone issue, as you guys.
Yeah, because again, the first 3 topics he was perfect. He sounded great.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, but again, such is life. Again,
Yeah,
not
I've been dealing with the issues of all that stuff since like 2 a.m.
Oh yeah,
And,
I
yeah.
bet.
And then as
dude.
everybody's coming in, they're all like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Here we go again. This is what happened."
Yeah, it's fuzzy.
Yeah, I think it's better.
I'm in a little bit clearer.
Oh, you
you're-
sound great now. You're perfect.
Yeah,
There you go.
you sound like you're muted. No, I'm kidding.
Don't pull his hair. Wait a second. He doesn't have any. Don't do that.
Oh, wow.
All right. So like I was saying, Fuzzy's going to tell us all about how I have manipulated him into watching horror movies and things like that, right?
Yes.
Kind of. Like, for the most part, I've always been like more of the sci-fi guy, but I do like zombie flicks. I do like some slashers, like some of the classics, like your Friday the 13th, your Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, things along those lines. But like some of the stuff my wife's into, it's like, oh wait, that zombie movie is a little bit on like you could tell it's like a B movie classic kind of thing, but it's like, okay, I'll watch it. And a lot of them are pretty good, but some of them it's like, come on, really? This is just silly. But
So,
like what was
so
it,
you
the one in
know,
Tucker and Dale or something? That one's a awesome, funny one
love
as
that
far as
one.
like kind of like a impromptu slasher kind of thing. But
so wait a minute. Let me tell you something about Fuzzy. Who's ever watched After Effects? Who's ever watched the zombie movie After Effects?
Sounds familiar.
Nobody?
I can't say I have.
No.
Yeah, it does sound
So-
familiar,
so-
but I don't remember.
So it's an experiment. So it's college kids. They basically get conned into doing, the testing, the experiment. You go and you sign up for $1,000. You go for a couple days and you do an experiment, and they experiment on you and stuff like that. And then it winds up in basically a zombie rage movie. He fell asleep on that.
Is that the one where they're in the bowling alley and don't know that they're zombies?
No, not that one. This one is where they're actually in kind of like the hospital, kind of research center. It opens with a girl running away from basically a tactical team, and then they shoot her, and then it goes into the next group that is going to be studied. But yeah, he fell asleep on that one. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as action packed in the beginning. Like they were waiting on, like they had to sit in a room and they were like, "What are you going to spend the money on from this, experiment?" And then it was like they had to wait for people to be called. And by that point, I was like, "Oh, this is, type of thing." Like I would have expected, like, one woman snuck off and saw something that she wasn't supposed to with somebody walking around with a gas mask. But I was hoping, maybe there's a zombie wandering around and it's like they have to tackle them and cut them up, and one of the people sees and tries to warn everybody else, "We need to get out of here." But it started off a little too slow for me, I guess.
So you like sci-fi?
Yeah, I'm more of the sci-fi guy, but like
what about
movie
Aliens?
we saw yesterday because of the with the power outage, we saw Quiet Place day one, which I kind of liked it. I mean, yes, it's predictable, but I just like that concept. It's like, asteroids with aliens on them kind of thing, and you make a noise, they a horde of them come and grab you kind of thing. That But
so what about the Alien movies?
I'm big fan of the Alien movies. And I like the new one that I guess is coming out because they do have the right sound for like the radar, that chime.
Oh
They
yeah,
just got to
dude, that
get the
looks
gun
really good.
sound right. Like in the video game, they had that gun sound for the last Aliens game that was like a multiplayer or a co-op game. The gun sound for the game was perfect, matched the movie to a T. Hopefully they have that same deal with this upcoming, I guess, reboot for the Aliens movies. But it was always cool where it's like, all right, they got to kind of sneak around. Oh, there's acid that melted through there, so something's about to go down. Or they want, like, Prometheus was another one that I liked as well. But I kind of hope that they'd would have not necessarily a split, but more of a expansion on that whole Prometheus type of like lore to it. Now, when it came to Aliens versus Predators,
First one was good.
Predators
The
is
second
cool
one
on
was
its
just
own.
rubbish.
Aliens are cool on their own. Predator versus Alien, it was more of like what you would expect from the 80s, like, a Clash of the Titans, and it just didn't do it for me kind of thing. But
I liked Prey. That was nice.
That was excellent, dude.
Yeah.
Really
That was
good.
a nice twist. If you didn't know, and and then you find out, you're like, I'm watching a Predator movie.
Yeah.
But,
Now that one was pretty good as well. But my main zombie go-to movies, it's not really a zombie movie, to be honest, is 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later.
Really good.
Yeah.
They're
Coming out with
like the
another one.
rage zombie or
Fourth.
rage infected or something, but
Yeah.
I see them as kind of like zombies to some extent.
Yeah, there's like 3 more coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it 28 years is the next one?
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be 28 years, and then there's like I think it's like parts 1, 2, and 3. I'm pretty sure something like that. I think they're filming 2 of them back to back. I can't remember all the details, but yeah, I was reading about it the other day. I'm like, oh, I had no idea that it was multiple films because they've got multiple directors for them.
Yeah,
So
those zombies run. They don't just kind of just hang around. They run at
Mm-hmm.
you, man. They're quick.
I want to talk about that at some point.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we will. But I thought this one was a little interesting, and that's why I want you guys to watch Festival of the Living Dead, because there is a little controversy about that universe. I don't know if you guys have Facebook, but there is a Return of the Living Dead movie coming out. They're trying to make it. It's through Indiegogo. Called Trash's Revenge, Return of the Living Dead universe. And a few months ago, the members of Return of the Living Dead, the first 2 movies, felt that the universe was going in a totally weird direction with 3 they didn't worry about, but 4 and 5 were, kind of something that they were like, we don't want any parts of this. So they want to take back their name, basically. Now, this new one coming out that the guy's trying to make, because he's a fan, big time fan, he is actually working with Lena Quigley. he wants
Okay.
to include all of, like Matthews and all them. He wants to include whoever is still alive, but at the same time, there's some type of conflict with the person that actually owns the rights to it.
That makes sense.
So I guess somebody tried to, remember when we talked about, last week we talked about Simon Pegg, like, hey, stop slapping the name on the movie and just do something, extend the movie universe. And I think that's what Festival of the Living Dead was supposed to be. It's supposed to be bringing in a new generation that is actually younger than us. But I thought it was interesting in the way that they did it. So I did. So Mr. Boomstick unfortunately wasn't able to because of all the craziness going on. And when we had asked him, he wasn't able to. But I did give him the synopsis of it, and I'm hoping, because I know Kaneda said that he was in agreement with that synopsis. So Festival of the Living Dead is kind of like Rave to the Grave, but watered down.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I mean, I
how-
watched the trailer. I watched the trailer a couple times to get the gist of it. I mean, it does look campy. It definitely looks campy. I'm actually surprised that because didn't it say that it was supposed to be a part of the George the George Romero Living Dead universe, or no?
Pretty much, yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, because I didn't actually get that, and I don't know. I mean, again, it's I think the trailer is 2 minutes and 30 something seconds. It looks like a lot of B movie-esque horror zombie films that you get nowadays. Unfortunately, you're never going to get a Dawn of the Dead. And I know that your numbers in your name, Ferocious, is due to that being one of your favorite films. That still is a classic film, like unbelievably great. I like the remakes. The remake was pretty good, just not as good as the original. I don't know. I mean, like Return of the Living Dead, I saw that in the theaters. That's how old I am.
Me too.
And yeah, that was fantastic. Especially, I mean, and again, the whole thing with the the guy was the Pathmark guy on commercials, man, and he was there acting as one of the people. It was great. Again, with those, like, even if you hit it because remember what he said, he goes, hit it in the brain. I hit it in the effing brain. It's still running around. I like that, but this. I don't know if I would have watched it, to be honest with you, because I looked at it and I'm like, oh man, yeah, this kind of, what, when we're watching horror films or we're watching trailers, right, and my wife and I are like, oh, let's see this one. Usually the cover is like super nice. You're like, oh wow, that looks really good. That's eye candy. Let's get in there and watch it. And then you see it and you're like, yep, that's kind of we said iPhone 6. Like it was recorded on someone's phone, and that's what kind of I took away from it. Again, I mean, listen, everyone likes horror, and again, whether you like it campy or you like it like super serious, it's fine. It's your taste is your taste. We don't really go for just the straightforward, it's got to be by the numbers horror. We like everything across the board because we do like campy, because again, we're both 80s kids.
Yeah. So just you asked the question about whether it was part of the Romero world, and it is in the way that it's, and they really only touch on it for like a split second. These are the kids, or one of the main character is like the granddaughter of Ben from the first movie, from the original movie.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really taking it back. Holy cow.
Yeah, and they've got like a picture of him in the house, and they've got his shotgun that he had in the movie. So like they kind of like touch on that. Like, right, I'm not really okay. I apologize if I'm giving away spoiler. It's right there at the very beginning of the film. It's like you're not really, and then you never hear about it again.
That's a shame, because that's a pretty cool connection.
It could have been, yeah. It's a little funny because like the picture of Ben was definitely a much later in life picture. So you're like,
Yeah,
he was quite young when he died. but they managed to get him when he was in his 60s. But
Yeah,
so sorry, I was just gonna say, like, just for the people that are hanging out, the gist of it is like this girl, she gets pulled in by her friends to go to this big celebration to celebrate the zombie apocalypse that happened
Mhm.
back in the 60s, and it's this big music festival. It's kind of like Burning Man, I guess, if you will, and they have a big statue that they're gonna burn, just like in Burning Man, and they've got all this music, and it's like a rave, like rave to the grave, and shit goes sideways. Part of my language. I didn't ask if I was allowed to swear in here or not, but anyway, things go sideways, and then that's your movie, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, they do have little Easter eggs in there.
Yep.
It's the problem is that it takes from the George Romero universe, but it's more campy, like it's from the Return of the Dead. So it's like they're trying to put both of them together.
You
But
saw the big. I assume you picked up on the big Easter egg throughout the movie. That really kind of like harkened to Return of the Living Dead.
Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the big statue that they set on fire.
Oh yeah. Well, that's one of them.
I
And
think that was that was like the second best Easter egg in that movie.
yeah. But it's just kind of weird is that they also try and get you to kind of guess on why people's
I think your audio cut out for a second there.
What was that?
I think your audio cut out after you said they try to get you to guess. I'm sorry.
Oh, they try to get you to guess about how this apocalypse is now happening. What exactly it is. Did anybody catch what it was that they were trying to get at on why this restarted?
The comet.
What was that?
The comet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, the comet. Not just the comet, but the guy was snorting the comet. And this is one of the reasons why I think they're trying to get a younger generation, because there are a lot. This is actually TV mature. So I'm like trying to figure out. Me and Fuzzy are trying to figure out why, because there's no sex in it. There's no nudity in it. It's not like House of the Dead, right? And we're just and besides the gun violence, and then here's the biggest question, and Kaneda can talk about this. Kaneda was having trouble finding it because Tubi is regional, right?
Mm-hmm. Must be.
Yeah. So if there's not really any nudity in there, which I know Canada doesn't have a problem with, and gun violence is not that big of a deal with a zombie movie, right?
Yeah.
But is there something about drug use and stuff like that in Canada?
We have legalized marijuana in Canada.
So why is this
the entire country is high as fuck right now? I'm sure of it.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering why this thing is TV mature, and why some people can't get access to this movie. But I think it's a big PSA.
I think, and I don't know definitively, but usually when it comes down to something like this, where we can't get things up here, but you get them down in the States, it's usually because of distribution rights from whoever is distributing the film. And there are only a couple of major players for this sort of thing up in Canada, and they always like to piss and moan about who's got what. So it very likely was something to do with distribution rights from maybe the production studio that did it. I don't really know. It's something like that. But yeah, it was not on Tubi in Canada, so I had to find alternate methods to watch the film. But I still, I think Tubi's phenomenal, by the way. If you don't have it, you should probably get it. It's free.
Yeah. Well, I had a hard time getting a Serbian film to watch that in the United States, so I feel your pain on that one. But no, I just think that Festival of the Living Dead was a big, humongous PSA against drugs. Like, don't do drugs. Because that's kind of what it felt like.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that, because that was funny, because the guy's like, hey, we're snorting the like the meteor or whatever. Meteor, what do you call it? Meteor something?
Yeah.
Meteor powder, some stupid thing. And as soon as they
Yeah.
did it, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Like, okay, I know that they're the generation of eating Tide Pods, but I mean, are you really going to go up to this thing that fell from the sky and start scraping it and then shoving it up your nose? I mean, really? That's the premise of how we get started again. Cool. I got it.
Yeah. Now, Dreadpool, I know you weren't necessarily the biggest fan of this movie, considering the comments you said about it prior. But what were your thoughts as far as like whether it be part of the Romero universe or just overall? What were some of the
I,
standout things for you that just kind of didn't land from like your favorite zombie movie perspective kind of deal?
yeah, no, I like the things that you know, the homages, you know, we touched upon it.
Hmm.
I like that stuff, especially if you know, when you're paying attention, you're like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool. Oh, okay, this is what, you know, what they're leading to. But my issues were the storyline, your played out uh different characters. You know what I mean? It's like you could read what the next set of scenes were going to be. You know, so you knew beforehand how this was going to play out, and you knew who was going to, you know, stay alive. You knew this guy was um the guy that was, you know, this type of character, and you knew he wasn't going to redeem himself. You knew that this guy here was going to try to but never make it, and it's just, you could see it happen before it actually happened. So it's, instead of like kicking back and just seeing it for the, you know, for the first time, if I felt like I actually watched it before I watched it, you know what I mean? So it's like knowing what's going to happen. It's like, yeah, okay, this is what's going to happen here, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, I guessed it. You know, I could have written it verbatim before the scene actually happened.
Yeah.
You know, we could have paused it and said, okay, this is what's going to happen here, and there it was. So unfortunately, it was highly predictable to me. So again, it all depends on who you are. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
don't take what I'm saying with the grain, you know, with cold hard facts that it's a crappy movie. It's not. It's just
It didn't work for you.
it didn't. Yeah, and when you do so much of this stuff ahead of time, you know, like we all grew up with campiness. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
we all grew up with watching this stuff, and to watch the campiness not be our type of campy, which I think is the best kind of campy.
Mhm.
You know, you got Freddie with his one-liners, and you know, that just
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. There's certain things that just, it was cool to see certain things, but again, it was like watching it, and you're like, oh boy, you know, here we go. This is the line we're going, and
Yeah.
you could just see those threads right there. You can see where all the holes are. You could, you know, so um, but I did go through it. If it was that bad, I would have stopped. So, you know,
Not me.
um, but yeah, it just, I do like the fact that they did certain things to try to, like, hey, this is in reference to here. I like homages. I like the fact when you can give the predecessor its due. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? This is why we're doing it, because of this. We're fans of these movies. These are these things. It's like Star Wars when they redid the whole homage to A New Hope with a whole new set of characters, and people were like, well, what was the point? Nobody came up with anything new, and it's like, no, they this is the relationship of, this is what this movie inspired, and we're mimicking certain key aspects of it, and here we are. You know, same thing here, mimicking certain things. We're bringing back, you know, and again, they changed certain things up, which, you know, we'll go into that later. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
just, um, yeah, just like the whole gun thing. You know,
Yeah.
nobody knew how to use a gun but her, because it was her grandfather's gun. You know, so You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then we'll just say the little boy, that part
Oh.
there. You know what I'm saying? It was just like
Yeah.
done.
Mhm.
What?
Uh-huh.
So
Even
there
my
are
wife was
certain
like, well,
things.
that escalated rather quickly. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that sure
at
did.
the same,
And then
wait a minute. At the same time, we have to reflect on the past when this child was, couldn't get his medication and stuff like that, and the guy was like, "Oh, just leave him. Come on
but
now."
most of that
There's-
but most of that time he was also passed out because he
Yeah.
needed
He
his
was just
medication.
sleeping.
I don't
So
know.
but then afterwards hey, get in. Think about that. How did that happen at that age and all that? So not
Yeah.
spoiling anything, but it was kind of comical, which I liked, but at the same time it was like, in that position, how did that even happen?
Hmm.
And then nobody even said nothing about it. Nobody even acknowledged, like, how did you get here? How did, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Again, there's a lot of things that just, a lot of holes that didn't make sense and didn't add up, and just, you know,
Yeah.
certain things. Yeah.
Well,
But I
I'm
think
not
this
gonna.
Ruin
is
it for
the.
Oh,
people.
But I think this is the difference between when a horror movie becomes a cult classic and it just becomes an endearing film to us, and then those that it's okay to watch one time, we're gonna move on.
mhm.
Yeah.
True. I think one of the key things, there's always going to be that a-hole guy that only cares about himself kind of thing in the movie. And it's like, that's the one you hopefully, gets killed first kind of deal. It's like you're rooting for them to die type of deal at certain points. But then it winds up being that they usually either last the longest or they wind up being the one that, they have to rely on to get the boat or the helicopter or whatever to get out of there kind of thing in some cases. But I think in this movie, we
You
saw
just went
some
visual.
fastness out of the zombies. I know a lot of the more classics zombies were slow, but I want to dive into what are your thoughts on this transition from the classics to the newer ones with the fast zombie? How does that necessarily take zombie movies to the next level, or is it something that is more so like adds to the thrill of them or takes away the thrill to some extent? What do you
Pass.
guys think?
I don't like it myself. I don't love it. I shouldn't say I hate it because I don't hate it,
Mhm.
but I think one of the things about the zombies that they should always be slow because of rigor mortis, but
Mhm.
also the interesting thing about zombies is they may be slow and you may be able to get past them for now, but
Mhm.
their overwhelming numbers are going to slowly take you over, and that's what's more frightening to me as an like
Mhm.
that idea, almost like it's almost like seeing COVID as an as a modern day example of being able to see it physically and manifest itself as like a real thing, and you can see it happening, right? Like we
Mhm.
couldn't see what was going on with that, but this you can kind of see it. Like you see your friend get bitten. Oh, that sucks. That's no good. They're dead, but now they're coming back after me now. That I think is just I think that's a better way to do it myself.
Mhm.
I don't really look at fast zombies as being true zombies or true zombies. I don't look at them as like the living dead of any sort, really. I
Yeah.
look at them more like they're rage virus infected people,
Mhm.
like from the 28 Days movies. Which, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the hell out of those films, and I cannot wait for the new ones. But I still don't look at them as being like the undead. They're just people who have been infected with a virus that completely shuts off all reasoning in their brain and takes them back to a more primal uh, aspect of humanity.
And
Those are
they
great
can
points.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can die. The rage
Yeah,
ones die, whereas it's more frightening that the zombie horde is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
yeah. Well, that's one thing that's about about the zombie thing that they've never really done right is that as carry on, they will eventually be picked to death by birds, animals, and things like that, and then be gone. If like enough people stay away from them, they will eventually go away, right? But I mean, we don't have enough time to do that in a film, so we can't really go down that path. But yeah, I agree. Like you can kill somebody with the rage virus, just as easily as you can kill a human.
Yeah.
There's no specific rules for how you do that.
What are your thoughts, Boom, as far as like
I
like the
actually, I
classic
mean, I
versus
like both, to be honest with you. But I think that when you have them, like for instance, the fast ones, the ones that could cook, I think it's scarier because they're running full steam, and they don't. There's no stamina issues, right? They're just full sprint until they get you. And I think like that to me is I think a little bit more terrifying. I get that the zombie horde is going to grow, and the shuffling, classic zombie is over, eventually going to be just so many of them. There's just no way. It's going to be like a wave hitting you, and there's just nowhere to go. And that is, of course, suffocating, right?
Mhm.
But I think that the fast ones, man, they cook. And usually, I mean, they're running so fast, like you've seen in many films, they like go right through the door. Like, you close the door behind you and they're right through it. And it's I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of like a flip of the coin, because I do see the point of the traditional undead, meaning like, the slow walkers, if you will, versus, like the 28 days. Like they're super, super quick. And and again, if they start running at you in a pack, it's, I don't know. I mean, I think I would be more afraid of the fast ones more so than the slow walkers.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I know I've always, like, the slower zombies never really scared me, but the overwhelming numbers can definitely be a problem. But the minute I saw fast zombies, that was the thing. It's like I never thought that a zombie could be fast. It's like, oh well, like kind of like what Kaneda said, the rigor mortis, things like that. Muscles should deteriorate. They shouldn't be able to move fast. But after seeing it in things like Dawn of the Dead, and yeah, 28 Days, it's not really the zombie, but that just seeing that style of, attacker kind of thing, that put a whole new perspective for me as far as how zombie movies are to some extent. But it is definitely for me the more scary aspect. Like the large numbers, I'm always the guy. It's like, well, we'll just get in the Jeep. We'll avoid the roads and go in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. And yeah, the hordes will be pretty big in like the cities or urban areas and things like that. But out in the middle of the mountains or something like that, I think we could fare pretty well. But if they're running fast, that's where it's like, okay, you either got to figure out how to set up traps or come up with something to slow them down, or instead of headshots, go for knee shots or ankle shots or something just to slow them down, so that way you have a little bit better chance of getting away, kind of thing. But I like them both, but like much like Kaneda, I'm definitely looking forward to the new 28, like I guess 28 years or anything else included in that series. That's like my most anticipated as far as for me the top of the zombie movie pile for up and coming. But I do like the classic ones as well, because it's like, all right, just hunker down. Hopefully you have a satellite radio or a satellite phone or something that if you have to call for help. Hopefully your bunker is well supplied, kind of thing. Not that I'm a prepper or anything like that, but
He's not.
beginning of COVID, we kind of had that prepper mentality. Even months before things shut down, I was like, yeah, I'm getting word from some of the warehouses that we deal with in China that things aren't going good over there. So let's just start getting water, because I have a feeling there's going to be a run on water. Little did I know there'd be a run on toilet paper. I should have known better.
Yeah,
But, we still got a lot of paper products, but I didn't know that toilet paper would be like the new gold or something.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
But,
So talking about what Fuzzy said and what everybody said so far, I think Dawn of the Dead was one of the first ones to kind of go and have zombies that were fast and also slow, kind of trying to merge the two. And this is, of course, after the Rage Zombies or the Ragers in 28 Days and 28 Months. I think it can work in a movie like the way they did it. it seems more organic that you would have the fast zombies in the beginning of the movie, in the beginning, and then they slowly. So there was actually a movie called Autumn. Can't remember. It wasn't out of France, but it was a different country that did it. And at the beginning of the movie, the zombies are kind of like, we don't know what to do. Like, we're totally brainless. We have no idea what's going on, and we're just like wandering around. And then eventually, they become very aggressive, to the point where they're now starting to attack live people. I think one of the reasons why Autumn is so well, sought after right now, because it's not on. I don't think it's on any streaming services anymore, is because of that transition that they did, and it's really the main point of the film. So I think it can work, but I don't necessarily think it works every movie. It wouldn't work in House of the Dead, right? So
Nothing worked in House of the Dead.
Yeah, that was just horrendous.
oh, come on, that's one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a
Oh,
Mrs. Boom,
sorry.
and I played that game for hours on the Dreamcast. Like, I
Yep.
mean, hours upon hours. We still have the guns. We still got our Dreamcast. It still works. Like, I would love to set it up. Unfortunately, these new TVs don't work. I mean, you'd have to get the old CRTs.
No, you can get some. You can get some things for that on Amazon. Not that.
Yeah, there's new guns that you can use. There's different.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've been on with the retro scene looking at.
Well, they
stuff
are
like
making
that.
a new House of the Dead, so that's very exciting.
So-
I'm very happy about that.
So is the House of the Dead movie series with the game basically the forerunner to the Halo, where the movie and the game have nothing to do with each other other than the name?
I think it's just in the name, dude.
Halo wasn't that. Season 1 was okay. Season 2 bit better, but I'm glad that it's going somewhere else. Hopefully, Amazon picks that up.
I mean, I understand why they did certain things with Halo, but House of the Dead, they just took the name. You know what I mean? It was like, and don't get me wrong, there was cool spots where they transitioned to the video game, and you would see the gunshots and the holes in the screen. You know what I mean? So they did something right there, but then that was it for the movie. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah. So Dread, what is your take between like some of the classic zombie movement versus like the fast zombie movement?
Okay, so here's how I look at it, and I know everybody's got their different opinion, and I know mine's a little out there too. With Romero, he had slow zombies, right? They weren't necessarily super slow, but they were slow enough that you can get into a house, but they'd still catch up to you. You know what I mean? So to me, most of them were coming out of the grave. So when it comes to that, I look at it as there's a reason for them to be slow, rigor mortis, right? So as we progress in time and zombies start getting faster, and we have the combination of fast and slow, the way I look at it is, even bring in Walking Dead, right? So when you're first dead, obviously rigor mortis hasn't set in. Obviously, the virus or whatever is reanimating your body to come back alive, is still getting a hold. So I always think of when they show the X-ray / MRI, whatever they were using to show the virus kick in on the brain and then bring the body back to life. So you're always watching that, and everything kind of like establishing the new nervous system for movements, and you see it just spark and then blow up and then grow into the rest of the body. Now you got a zombie. So I understand that there would be that type of confusion for the zombie. I know there's lack of intelligence, but so that they would be kind of like a slow in trying to learn how to that virus or whatever you want to call it at the time that they use. I like using virus more so when it comes to live, because it's usually something that's transmitted when you get bit. What's attacking? It's not decay. It's usually like a virus.
Yeah.
So I look at it like that, more on the medical terms. And so obviously you'd be kind of slow because you would be sluggish trying to relearn how to do things. And speaking of relearning, right? You would start learning how to move, and because you're not 100% locked up, your muscles are still flexible. You can be the fast zombie once you get back on your feet. So you can have that rage virus just knock you out, and you just start running. You don't even know what you're doing. You just, what is that? And you just start going. So the older you get in your death, I see you slowing down, and then you just become a drone, because now it's just, okay, we're moving. And then I also see there's got to be, in my version of zombies, the intelligence where you do know your repetitive tasks come back to you, because it's something that you do naturally. You don't even think about it. How many times we go to work and we do certain things? How many times you drive to work and you don't even remember going to work? You don't even remember the drive. You just left the house, you got in the car, and all of a sudden you're there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you just droned out, and it's just something that you do. Your repetitive machinery and stuff like that. You don't even think about it. You just do it, and it's just secondhand. So zombies would have that ability, because it would just be something secondhand, even though the virus doesn't know, your brain's not working. It's just something that happens. So I think when you do it at the right times, at the right spots, you can integrate all of that and then have it make sense. So when you have your Walking Dead masses of zombies coming at you, and at the time we joined the Walking Dead, they're slow, right? So they've had time to, like, muscle fatigue and rigor mortis is setting in, so you're obviously slow and you're just barely moving. Where this movie, the first guy, do we even go there? First guy you see is slow. He seems very stupid. You know what I mean? They gave him that that moron zombie theme to him. You know what I'm saying? So it was like it made sense, but it didn't make sense. And then you have a couple other ones that are fast. You have a couple other ones that are slow, and it just, the timing seemed very odd. I do know, when they walk in and you see people that are dazed and confused, I could see that, because they're trying to, like, the virus is trying to figure out the body mechanics and movements. So, some of that stuff I could see, but if you're going to be reacting to sounds, touch, noise, just everything, smell, be consistent with it, and your timing with it, so you can't have one zombie, and granted, this is a course over pretty much a day, right? So within hours, you're going to have these different varieties of zombies already doing things. It kind of doesn't make sense. You're devouring bodies, and they're still intact when they're a zombie, but that they were devoured earlier. You know what I mean? So certain things don't add up. And I get it. Okay, well, that person died. Well, what turned them into a zombie in the first place? What turned the other person into a zombie? Wouldn't that make this person a zombie too? You know what I mean? All these little connections make a big difference. And sometimes, and that's why I was like, can I get my 2 hours back? Because a lot of these connections didn't make sense, when you go through all this stuff. If they had better paced the zombie transitions, the storyline of how you become a zombie and how you become a fast zombie to a slow zombie to just uh, a zombie enough to know to carry something with them, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And still have it with them the whole time that they're in the scene.
Yeah.
Because that guy should never have had that. He should have just, again, memory, certain things secondhand. I can, again, that makes sense if you play it that way. But timing also factored into that. Why was he the only one? Nobody else did.
Yeah.
So
So
I think
Well,
a
I think
lot of it
I
got to. I think a lot of it's got to do with consistency on how you create your zombie. At least with 28 days, their zombies were rage. It was the rage virus.
Mhm.
They're always running after you. They're anything they could do to get to you. Walking Dead, they were just always. Uh,
always around. So I have a question for everybody. When we look at the way George Romero did it, because Tina Romero is going to be coming out with her film when she's done with it. So I'll put in the comments in reference to, not in the comments, but in the description in reference to when she's going to be filming her Zombie Horde. It's going to be out in Paterson, New Jersey. So I'm thinking that the way it sounds is her zombies are going to be similar to what her dad's zombies were. But when you look at the expansion of what George Romero did and all of these, new directors like, what is it, Zack Snyder and even Tom Savini, when he took over kind of, that franchise and made his version of the Night of the Living Dead and the other movies, what do you think has changed that has become an interpretation of George Romero that everybody else is kind of trying to, in their mind, improve, but not necessarily improve?
I think. Well, George had a very specific message in with all of his movies, right? Like each movie, there was a very specific thing that he was trying to say about modern society at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's done that really. It's there. Like you have to look for it, and if you're paying attention, you'll see it and you get it. Um, the, People just aren't doing that now. They're zombies just for the sake of being zombies, and they want to have a worldwide crisis that is scary and is taking over humanity. I think is what's changed. They're not trying to give you a message or a moral story, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think they tried to do it a little in Bloodlines, but I didn't see it in Day of the Dead remake or anything like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I do agree with that. There's usually there's something to learn from it, right? Versus now it's just, hey, let's do it because it's cool, and that's what it feels like. That's how it. A lot of the stuff is. It's like, oh, I like zombies. Why? I don't know. I just like zombies because I like this, and it's like sometimes people fall into the I like this because everybody else likes this, and I think that sometimes some movies are made that way too because I've liked this and I like it because it's a popular thing to like, and this is what I'm going for. And that's why, again, I nitpick when it comes to timing of how you build your zombie, but stick to that format. If you have a slow zombie, you stick with that. But what's the message? So a lot of these movies have messages to them. So you don't have to like read into it. It's just like, hey, this is how this goes. This is how this is. Society's gone to hell, and here we are trying to make it out alive. Whether it's in space or on Earth with the undead. Even Interview with the Vampire. There's messages there. There's different things that you learn. Yeah, and sometimes even with Romero, we learn things about how these zombies operated. You know, it was just like, oh, this this happened, and this is how the formula is, and it stays that way. And now we've learned this is how we go. But nowadays, it's just like, let's just throw somebody and make them gory. Get maybe have some entrails hanging out. Oh, you're an amputee. We'll use you. We'll use this. We'll do this, and then that's it. It's like 500 different people trying to come up with 5 different zombies and put it on screen, and here we go. It's the in thing. This is what everybody's this is going to make us some money, or this is going to give us some fame. And it's like, you didn't even do the basics when it comes to zombies. You didn't do the basics when it comes to this formula. And it's just, some of it feels like it's just been pieced together without any thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing about zombie films, though, right? Like, there's so many of them. And unfortunately, because there's an overabundance of zombie films, a lot of it feels like they're doing it just to do it. There are a few instances that you look as again, we watch a lot. My wife and I watch a lot of horror films. Looking at, so like I have a list of some of our favorites that we've seen. We wanted to find, watching this on Hulu, Little Monsters, for instance, is freaking fantastic. I mean, when we saw the trailer, we were like, this looks freaking hilarious. And it wound up being like a great film. You get that with Shaun of the Dead as a cult classic, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Zombieland, the first one, is freaking phenomenal. And then you start going back a bit. And like, of course, you go back to one of the, again, we saw it in the theater, Return of the Living Dead. Like, these are like standout zombie films. Like, I'd even add, like, and I watch it every time it's on. World War Z is another one I could watch almost every time that it is on. I absolutely love it. Now, again, it's a genre that is oversaturated. It is filled with a lot of tries. I think you're onto something where you say people they do these films just to do the zombie film.
Yeah. Look at I Am Legend, right? Another one.
Yeah.
Everything is
film.
planned out right.
Yep.
28 Days, right? That series of movies, they know what their rage virus is, and this is how it goes. So, to your point, it's like they've orchestrated how they do this, and this is how they do it. So each one of those movies you pointed out have identified, this is how we do this. And then even with the second one, they're like, oh, they're changing, and they pointed out they didn't have to, but you see the characters notice that they're changing, not just us as the viewers. The characters are noticing and having to learn how to adapt to that. So I'm sorry about that, but carry on, Boom.
No. I mean, again, it's just one of those things. Like, for instance, here's another one that we didn't know we were going to enjoy it. A Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Another absolutely freaking phenomenal film. And you know what's funny? You say it, and people are like, "What? I've never heard of that." Like, it's one of those hidden gems that you find that you like. My wife and I, every time that's on, whatever we're doing, we'll stop what we're doing and we'll watch it. And we're like, now we remember why we love this film. And it's, look, here's another one. This one's a bit of a love story-esque kind of a thing, but Warm Bodies is another one that we love.
Yes.
That's Fuzzy's favorite.
See, there you go. See, a lot of people don't even pay attention to it, that they show, and that's what I'm talking about, Dredd. You see the transition. He turns to a zombie, and eventually somehow he comes back, which is you've never seen. So that's again, it's just one of those things.
But they laid out how the zombies function. They laid out how this happens. They everything stays the same within the movie. Look at Train to Busan. For the
God, that's some of our favorites.
Again,
what a great film.
It's one of those movies that laid everything out, and you have your premise that everything stays within that book, right? So when you write your script, you write the book of how these zombies work. You write the book of how the characters work. Everything is well written and kept to the point of what the story is supposed to be, and you learn the different morals, you learn the different things, you know what I mean, and you see the cool stuff, you see the funny stuff. I mean, again, you brought up more great movies that stand out on their own because they don't rely on, oh, just another zombie movie. You know, they bring it in, and it's like, you know, the kids, you know, just everything falls in line, and that's the thing. Everything has to be well written. You can't just say, hey, what's going to be our villains that we're going to fight against? Oh, zombies. There you go. You know, and every single one of those movies you brought up, they're great movies. I love them. Death Dealer and I love Warm Bodies. At first, it was like, this is stupid. You know, like, what are you talking about? But it redeemed itself in the end. You know, it was just like, it was a good movie. It was great. It was a twist that you didn't see coming ever from any zombie movie. You know what I'm saying? So certain things like that, it was good, and that's why you have to, you know, stick to the script of what your zombie is supposed to be. Stick to your script, you know what I mean, and not just, hey, let's add this in, let's add that in, because they could have done the gore thing too, and added in disembodied bodies out there, and just like, all right, here we go. You saw them eating somebody. But that, you know, they weren't like, okay, now that person's going to get up and walk around. They just, like, you saw them feasting, and you understood the storyline because of the way that they did it. Just like the other one, the one that I had mentioned at the beginning of the show, where the zombies, it was those kids that didn't realize that they were zombies. You know, in the meantime, it was like everything was going on, and what was that?
Is it Zombies?
Zombies. Yes.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Again, the premise makes sense because they worded it right with the way that they wrote the book. Everything makes sense. Everything flows properly. That's why certain things like that are very memorable. You know, I always remember where they're at the soda fountain, and, you know, and get the slushy or whatever that was, you know, and during the bowling alley, and just trying to, you know, having a good time, thinking they're having a good time. In the meantime, they're just like, "Ugh." And you see the transitions back and forth, and it makes it that much more comical, you know, that, and they're like, they're thinking they're normal, you know. And again, Warm Bodies does the same thing, where you see like a different part of it. I Am Legend, again, this is what you see, and then you learn there's more to this because of the way they set it up. So
yeah, you know what? Real quick, you know, like I said in the opening, like my wife and I are like infatuated with K-dramas, right? He's like, oh, okay, not everyone's into it, fine, but just for Fuzzy and for Ferocious, and of course anybody that's listening and anybody on the panel, there are two zombie series that, if you don't mind subtitles, because I don't do the American dub, it's just horrendous. We're classic, you know, movie watchers. We go subtitles all the way. There are two. There's a modern one called All of Us Are Dead. Freaking amazing series. Like it's I think it's 16 episodes. It's so freaking good. And there's another one, it's a period piece called Kingdom, and it has a film that's on the back end of it and two series. Unbelievable. It's like it's zombies, like straight up zombies, but it's it's a period piece. It's freaking great.
Nice.
There's two movies that I'm surprised nobody mentioned, and that's Zombie Strippers.
Oh,
no, yeah. and then there's one more that's a really twisted one, but I really enjoyed it. Dead Girl. Yes.
Oh my God, Dead
That's
Girl.
a good one. That's a good one. Oh my God. But again, they stick to the script. They wrote it right.
Idea.
Great
Twisted
movie.
idea, but unique.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
So has anybody actually watched Zombie Nation? Because that's now on Tubi. Has anybody watched that?
Yeah,
It was supposed to be the counter. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been watching that from the start. My wife actually has been watching it like more than I have because she's got the opportunity that I don't because I'm always working. But yeah, Zombie Nation is always
Isn't it is it Z Nation or Zombie Nation?
Z Nation.
It's supposed to be Z Nation. Yeah.
Isn't it getting a? I heard somewhere that it was getting a revival, like a new sort of season that's going to continue wherever it left off.
I mean, I could see it. It's going to be a lot of work though, because when it left off, they had the answer.
I see.
They didn't have the means, but they at least had the answer.
Okay.
Murphy did get the answer at the end, and Murphy's the only one that knows the answer.
Right.
So I don't know how they're going to pivot that in because, I believe Dr. Murch, they finally find her. But I just think Zombie Nation was supposed to be kind of the answer to and the competition to, The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were upset with not only Glenn dying, but also Abraham. And well,
I still haven't watched that part.
Are you serious? You know why you haven't watched that part?
I got to a certain point. I could not continue watching it. And then people were like, oh, this person died. I'm like, stop. I haven't got that far yet. I'm trying to sit back down so I can binge watch the rest of these. And I haven't been able to.
You never will. To be honest with you, that's when I stopped watching it. I love The Walking Dead. I got Fuzzy Belvedere into The Walking Dead. And
we would go down the road and watch Walking Dead with our neighbors. We would all a whole bunch of neighbors would go to one house and hang out there, and we would do Walking Dead-a-thons and just every night go there, and then after that just talk about it.
Yeah, but once that happened, you saw a huge decline in viewership, and I think Z Nation was the answer to that because in Z Nation, while there were deaths of characters that you fell in love with, whether it was a main character that you saw for several episodes or you only saw for one episode, their character development was on point. They could get you to fall in love with somebody that just showed up for one casting for one day, and that was it.
Yeah. I liked its uniqueness. Again, they did it, their way. And it has its campiness, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it not really real life, but it kind of brings in a little bit of that realness. Oh, yes, my wife is chiming in. It answers questions.
That's great.
So we have Abdel 114 said, I only watch Zombieland for Emma Stone. Don't at me.
Oh, I thought that's why we all watched it.
There's the support.
Listen, I just want to say I had messaged you, Miss Fuzzy. I unfortunately I have to bounce because I have to help my wife with something. But I just want to say, Ferocious, it was great to finally meet you. Thank you so much for an invite on your show. Of course, thank you to everybody in the chat for showing up here. Thank everybody on the panel. Dread, it was great to work with you again, brother.
Yeah, right.
We haven't done this in a minute. It's great. And Fuzzy, did I hear correctly that you got your power back?
Yeah, it was like excellent. About 10 minutes into the show, it cut back.
Freaking goodness. Okay, so that's awesome. You can live like normal people now. That's awful. But everyone on the panel, thank you so much for having me here. I super appreciate it. Definitely got to find my way back here again. And if there is going to be homework this time, I'll make sure that I get a chance to watch it. But thank you so much. Everyone have a great weekend. Please, if you're not already subscribe to this channel. This is fun. There are not a lot of horror podcasts. I mean, I'm sure that they're out there, but this one was a lot of fun. So thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful night, and I'll see you soon.
So tell your wife that thank you for lending you to us.
Oh no problem. Listen, it's literally the least I can do. Fuzzy works with me twice a week. Again, when he asked, I was like, "Yep, absolutely, I'm there." But thank you very much for the invite, and we'll definitely do this again.
Mhm. Yep.
All right. Thanks
Have a great
again,
night,
Boom.
everybody.
Greatly appreciate
Take care,
it.
Boom.
Take care,
All right.
Boom.
I'm following you, by the way. I wasn't following you, kind sir, Xbox. But
Pineda?
Pineda,
I'm
yeah.
definitely following you now. So again, obviously, we got to get you on the show, and we'll talk soon.
All right, my friend. I got
All
you
right,
too.
brother.
We'll
All right.
talk later, my
All right,
dude.
guys. Take care.
Take care.
Later.
All right, now
Yeah,
that he's out of here. Kidding.
So yeah, I just I watched Z Nation all the way through because I just felt that I just felt that they were more concerned about giving us a show that was of quality rather than just hitting us with what can I get for the ratings? You know, how many people can I get to show up? Kind of mentality.
Sure.
So when go ahead.
I was gonna say I watched The Walking Dead, start to finish,
Mhm.
every season, every year. I loved it, even though there were some things that I was like, oh, you didn't really need to do this, you didn't need to do that. I like that they did this. I like how they portrayed this part from the comics, because I've read all the comics as well. I even got issue number 1 signed by Kirkman and Tony Moore, the original artist. It's one of my prized possessions. So yeah, I mean, to say I'm a big fan of that series is an understatement. So yeah, I watched it all. I loved it. I hear a lot of negative feedback and commentary about it, and I get it, but I think they needed to make The Walking Dead different than the comics, just enough to make people like myself kind of keep us on our toes and walking on eggshells.
I agree with that though. It was a good thing that they kept it where they started the same way, but then they transitioned, and as it grew, in time, changed how things happen. So
Yeah.
again, it was a nice premise of, hey, we started at the beginning, and now nobody's safe, and certain things can be transitioned away from the source material as long as you still utilize the laws of that source material. Certain things like Halo can't. You know what I mean? They can, but it can't. Look at House of the Dead. We just talked about that too. It doesn't make sense. But when it came to Walking Dead, the way that they did it, it maintained itself. You know what I mean? And that's why it had so many seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So
They
if you do it right, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, sorry, I was just gonna. They
No.
did make it too long in some respects, because even some of the actors were like, "Okay, I need an out."
Yeah. No, I just don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, if that happened, if that's starting to happen, and you got your main guy, and he's like, "I need out. I've been doing this too long. I need to take a break." You need to start winding it down. You need to look at that and go, "Okay, we need to wrap this up, because we don't want to lose our main guy, because that really changed the dynamic of the show." I think it changed the formula a little too much, and brought in this new thing that was really kind of like, it brought us where we are now, with the spin-offs sort of thing. And I don't think that they were necessary. So I think they should have just been like, okay, Andrew wants to shut it down. Let's wrap this up. Let's do another time jump or whatever we got to do, and finish it out proper, because the way they wrote it, I did not enjoy that. That was one of the things I mean, I don't think I'm giving away spoilers on a show that's like 10 or 12 years old, right? And it ended, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
People already looked up the answer.
I know.
So here's the thing: is that they're bringing him back to do basically like a side quest, like you guys do in the gaming. But they also are bringing back Carol. They're just adding her. It's supposed to be Carol and Daryl, and she didn't want to do it because she's like, I've been away from my family for so long. I do not want to go to France and be further from my family. But now she's coming back for more episodes on Daryl Dixon, and now they're going to have the Book of Carol, which I don't know if they started or not. But all other shows, such as, I'm going to do non-related horror, this is on the top of my head, but when Friends was over, the whole entire cast said Friends was over. When the Big Bang Theory came to an end, it was the whole entire cast. They were like, yeah, one goes, we all go. And they had a blowout, awesome, last year of doing everything, and they got to do everything that they wanted to do that they weren't kind of allowed to do previously because they knew it was the last season, the same with Friends. And I think that is helpful to any show to give back to the fans, is to give that ending, because we don't always get that ending. I mean, look at Resident Evil. We had Resident Evil. They brought out a series, and it ended on a cliffhanger, and it's not coming back.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys
well,
watched that or not.
yeah, look at 70s Show.
Mm-hmm.
The last season just didn't work out because your main character that you grew on and everything revolved around is no longer there. And when you do stuff like that, it throws everything off, because now you got to come up with somebody else to be from a side character to a main character. But now you're not even focusing on one person; you're focusing on 3 or 4 of them, and it doesn't do that right. And that's the thing. At the same time, when you end a series, you need to end it so your questions are answered, but leave it open without leaving it with a cliffhanger. You know what I mean? Leave it open to come back. But if you leave a cliffhanger, now you're like, but what? Like, what? Why do we even get to this point? I'm so excited to see what's next, but I know there's nothing next. Why do that? Don't do that. Just end it, but don't close it off as a final. End it so that way, okay, you've answered those questions, but leave it open so you can come back and add more to it. And there's those fine lines that a lot of people don't. And and you look at some of the other seasons that had abrupt endings, for different TV shows, and you're like, so where are we now? You
Sopranos
killed the
is probably
whole.
the most famous one that comes to mind.
I'm sorry, which one?
Sopranos.
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, you're in a restaurant, and okay, was he whacked or
Quantum Leap.
Yeah,
Quantum Leap. That's another one that was like,
people were mad about that one.
You should have just let them find. Okay, bring them back. We found the answer. You're back. It would have been a nice closure, and then just see off in the distance the machine is kicking back on again. Like, oh.
And they did a reboot of Quantum Leap, and it didn't do well because people were like, and that brings up the thing. You guys, one of you had mentioned it. It's like, well, anybody's fair game, to die in a movie. That can play out very badly, especially in TV shows, but in movies where somebody has really gone all in on a character or several characters, is like you take the best one out, and then the rest of the movie kind of sucks because the caliber of the actors that you got to play those additional people, those supporting characters, aren't very good in the first place.
Yeah, and you can't have, and we've seen this before, where you have like the first half of the movie is one lead, you kill them off, and now you switch over to another lead that, and it's the same thing like I said before with the shows. You can't shift over who your lead is. You can have your lead hidden and then brought in, and to continue on with their story. You just don't realize that this is their story because you're watching these other characters. Just like in Scream when Drew Barrymore is one of the first ones to die off, and you're like, it's a big name, she's gonna live, and you're like, nope, she's gone.
That was phenomenal.
You know what I mean? And it was perfect because you didn't realize that that's what was going to happen, but they didn't let you sit there and fall in love with her
Mhm.
throughout the movie, and then halfway through say, "No, she's dead." It's actually this person's story. No, they led you along. It's like here's this group, but it's actually here's the storyline, but it's within the group. And as they die off, you realize where your storyline's going. But you see this person from start to end because that's their storyline. It's all these other main characters that are bigger names that are part of it.
Mhm.
And as they die off, you're there. You know what I mean? So you didn't go falling in love with this person and end up with this person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's that's a bad habit that they do, and it's you shouldn't be doing that stuff. For those of you writing movies, I don't care any kind of movie, any show, stop doing that. You know, the cast needs to get together and stick together
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you develop that cohesive bond that makes the show. And as you grow, like they did with Big Bang, they grew more characters in there, and it stayed together. It was very cohesive, and you couldn't lose one of those characters. You know, some of the supporting roles came in, but they were still supporting roles, even though they helped move the show along. It didn't pull out any of the main characters. So,
So, Fuzzy, you want to introduce the question?
Oh, yeah, just real quick. 4Q or 4GQTV posed a question. What is the scariest movie, I guess, for each of us, as far as for the panel? Kaneda, what would fall under your scariest or the scariest movie for you?
So, and it's not really a horror movie. And it really hits close to home from the last few years ago, but things like Outbreak or The Stand. The Stand was like probably the first Stephen King book that I was actually like, holy crap, that's making me very uneasy. And
Mhm.
and I read that in grade 5. I think it was 4.
Mhm.
And I read that and I was like, this is scary because this, like, I asked my dad, I remember, I was like, Dad, can like a cold, like a virus pass from people to people and like get really bad and like make everybody sick and lots of people die? He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay, good. So I'm going to sleep with that tonight. Cool. So things like that, I think, is probably like the most unnerving thing for me. No actual horror film has ever scared me or had me jump, in my seat or anything like that. It's never happened. I'm not saying it won't, but I think I'm just wired weirdly. That's probably what my problem is. I think just the more rooted in reality is where it gets uneasy for me. And I had during that whole COVID thing during the early days when I was paying attention to it, and they're talking about it, but nobody else is paying attention. I'm like, this might be a thing. And then I was flipping through Netflix and Outbreak, or not Outbreak, but the one with Gwyneth Paltrow was in it, was on Contagion. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it was called. And I put that on, and then I'm watching it, I'm like, I shouldn't be watching this because something's gonna happen soon, and I'm getting a little uneasy. So that would be for me, just anything that's more realistic.
Awesome. Awesome. Triple, what about you? What's the
okay.
scariest movie to you?
What's funny is, let's preference this, right? I go into haunted houses. I know that I jump and I get scared, right? But I'm filming. I don't even see a reaction from myself. So sometimes I don't like react, but I know internally I did a jump and I'm like, this is where I jumped. And it's like, I didn't jump. What's going on? You know? Um, so when it comes to movies like that, I don't do the jumps. Sometimes a jump scare will get you, but I wouldn't consider that a scary movie. Now, what did scare me, and The Stand, the book, I read that when I was in Greece, and I was coming down with all the symptoms. It mind effed you so bad as you're reading, and I could not put the book down. They would yell at me, dinner's ready, lunch is ready, breakfast is ready, bedtime. Like I was like glued to that book, and I was like, getting the sniffles and you know the sore throat, and it was like, oh my god, am I okay? Or like, what's going on? Like, am I being infected through the book? It was so good, right? That as an experience was pretty scary because, you know, and I was a teenager, you know what I mean? I was a young teen,
Mhm.
12, 13, something like that, reading it. And it's like, that was scary. But when it came to the actual movies, I don't even remember what this movie is. All I remember is um, I was supposed to be in bed. I'm sneaking out, looking through the doorway, looking over the couch. My mom was sitting there ironing, watching these scary movies, and it was like all I remember. And it's still, I remember it so good, but I have no idea what this movie is. All I know is they had these like instrument clusters, like on a ship, and coming through the clusters somehow. Like I said, being a kid, um, I may be misrepresenting my memories with
Mhm.
reality and how it all happened, but there was like baby fetuses that were like the alien or something coming through the clusters and stuff like that, attacking people. So it was
Wow.
just a fetus. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but as a kid, that scared the living bejesus out of me. You know what I mean? Especially when I was not supposed to be there. I was supposed to be asleep. In the meantime, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. I'll let you go next, Fee. What's the scariest movie for you?
So it's kind of a weird one. So when I was younger, I'm trying to think. I was, let's say, 12, going on 13, and now I've watched it since then. I actually own the movie, but at that time, I had to turn off the movie because being that young, I guess, it was one of my first real zombie movies. Children shouldn't play with dead things. Now, this is a PG-13 movie, and I think that's really grasping it because I think it really should be PG. But, you know, for somebody that's first starting to get into zombie movies, the suspense from it leading up to it, how dark it was, the fact that they were in the middle of nowhere, the fact there was no communication whatsoever. Yeah, it's kind of scary to somebody that's, you know, 12 or 13, that basically mom is is a working mom out of the house for 16 hours a day because she's a nurse and she's single, you know, taking care of one kid. Later on, my brother would come and live with us again, but me being alone in the house most of the time, yeah, that's kind of scary to me. Now, since I've actually watched it all the way through, it really wasn't a scary movie. But if you want to scare your child and start them off, you know, with zombie movie, I would suggest that one. But I think the scariest thing I've ever really seen, and I think it's just because of the fact that I just my brain just does not like the imagery, is the demon from Insidious
Mm.
1, the one that pops out, you know, the red face.
Is in the
What's it
corner
called?
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the red one with the black, and they bring him back in the fourth edition, the red door. That one is the one that, you know, pops up in my nightmare sometimes. But other than that, nothing's really scared me. And I think it was just me being a child at the time, and it being, you know, the environment that I know, not having anybody at home, that really scared me. And I think that's sometimes the best thing, is when you're not at home with anybody else when you're watching a scary movie, especially something that's unnerving to you.
Mm. All right. Mine is not a horror film, but it I guess this goes to show how weird I am. I think I was probably age 6 when I saw this. It was one of those ABC made for TV movies. And being an 80s kid, we always had bomb shelter drills, or like we had the normal fire drills. You go outside the school or whatever in elementary school, but we also had the bomb shelter ones where you get under your desk, like not the tuck and roll, but it was almost like, you know, get under your desk and, you know, hands over your head, you know, knees to your chest kind of thing. You know, the fear of nuclear war back in the early 80s. the day after that movie, and it's probably within the first 15 minutes to 30 minutes, when the thing that was scary for me was not anything but as far as the explosions and stuff. It was more so seeing the light through people's skin and the skeletons, and then like the shadows that were cast on the wall. Now that's how I remember being age 6 or so, and I'm like, pulling up the covers to my eyes kind of thing on the sofa, watching it with my parents and stuff. And that, like, to me, that left I wouldn't say a jarring memory, but it left a pretty big imprint as far as my fear of nuclear war, at least at that time growing up. Nowadays I watch that film, it's like, why was I even scared of this thing? If nuclear war happens, we'll probably not know it until we just see a flash and, oh, that's the end of it type of thing. So you wouldn't know or feel anything further. But probably for me, I don't typically get the jump scares, but there was one movie, and it was mainly because I was not expecting it at all. The jump scare that stands out to me the most, because like I said, they don't typically, like I'm probably like Dreadpool where I don't react. It's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of expecting something to happen kind of thing. Was The Ring. And it was at almost the very end when the guy is watching a video and the girl crawls out the well and she's walking towards the screen. And I think she jumps from the screen to like a foot in front of him, and he like flips out the chair and bumps into the bookcase. That her going from the TV to like a foot in front of him was what made me jump. And that one I will always remember as far as a jump scare. Like even the jump scare that was in the movie we watched yesterday, Quiet Place Day One, where without spoilers, the lady was having like, I guess, a dream or whatever, prior to the apocalypse, and one of the aliens kind of shows up in her dream. I was kind of like expecting something, because I'm like, there's no way we're doing a flashback in this movie. And I'm like, there's something that's going to happen. And it's like, oh yeah, my wife jumped. I didn't jump because I was like, it was almost like a countdown in my head. But The Ring, I was not expecting her to jump out of the TV like that. So that's probably, like, at least from a jump scare standpoint. But 6-year-old me, early 80s, the day after, about nuclear war, just seeing the light shine through people and then seeing their shadows cast on brick walls and things like that. Yeah, that got to me. But hopefully we don't have to worry about nuclear war anytime soon or anytime ever. So hopefully we'll see. But that's it for me as far as scary movie.
In my defense, when we watched Dawn of the Dead in movie theaters during the 45th anniversary and stuff like that, I did. There were a couple jump scares in there that I never responded to on TV. When I watched it, the 30, 40, 50 times that I watched it before actually seeing it on the big screen. I think there's just something about it being on a big screen that's different. Mm-hmm. And because in the opening, I did have a jump scare, even though I knew it was coming. It's just, I think it's something with me and big screens, maybe. So it makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So, we've had everything going past, we're up to like an hour, a little up over an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. I don't want to keep everybody here too much longer. Yeah. Greatly appreciate everybody checking us out and being patient with us through the storm and actually the return of power. But Fee, you want to let the special guests do their outros?
Just let me say a couple of things. If you do know anybody that wants to be in the zombie horde on the 26th or the 29th of July, they are still signing people up. I will definitely put it in this time, make sure it's in this time, in the description, and on Twitter at the same time, so that you know where it is. It's going to be in Paterson, New Jersey. It's really not that far. If you're living in the Delaware, the Philadelphia, the Pennsylvania, the Delaware area, and of course New Jersey. Even if you're up in New York, if you're willing to spend the toll money, I know that's a lot of money, but it's going to be a nice experience, and they are going to give you credit on IMDb if you want. And you bring your own clothes, you bring your own setup, you can do your makeup. They have makeup tutorials and stuff like that. But that's going to be this Friday. and I think it's Monday. And you don't have to go to both days. You can just go to one day since it's both going to be Zombie Horde Day. And then, of course, Monster Mania is coming up. Monster Mania is the convention, one of the conventions in New Jersey. Theirs is starting on, I believe, August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. There's a lot of people going to be there, a lot of celebrities going to be there that are like, they're doing a Nightmare on Elm Street reunion. I believe they have some Scream people there as well. And I believe they have Anthony Starr. I think that's who it is, Homelander, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Homelander. Yeah. So, and then New Jersey HorrorCon is the next weekend. We will be there. I got VIP tickets, so I will be on me and Fuzzy will be doing, they have a special thing where it's like, they have news people come by and it's a runway kind of thing, like, you know, for the award shows and stuff like that. So that's going to be unique. That's on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, I believe. But they still have tickets available. So if you want to come out and join us then as well. So let's do some outros. Let's go first.
Let Kaneda go first. Kaneda, let everybody know where they can find you. And once again, thank you wholeheartedly for coming out, and greatly appreciate you being on the panel tonight. But let everybody know where they can find you.
Well, thank you very much for having me, guys. I had a really good time. I hope I'll get to. I hope I was okay as a guest, and I can come back and do it again sometime. I'd love to do that. It's always good talking horror and film in general. I'm a big fan of both. So, yeah, anytime you guys need me, if I'm able to make it work out, I'm happy to come along. The best place you can find me is on Twitter at Xbox Canada, and sometimes I'll do reviews on my YouTube channel, Secret HQ Reviews. It's been kind of a slack summer this year because I'm just enjoying the weather, man. But I'm getting back to it. I got a few DVDs to get through and a few films, so
nice.
More stuff's coming.
Yeah, I put his link in the chat, so anybody who looks at the chat, you can see it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And Dreadpool, thank you so much for joining us as well tonight. Always appreciate doing podcasts with you. Haven't done one in a while, but we can definitely work on that. But awesome having you on here. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. It's great to podcast with people that I haven't podcast with in a bit because work is kicking in too much. But I appreciate everybody hanging out with us and jumping in, and appreciate the invite. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we get to do this again sometime. And I even dropped my link in the chat. It's just at Dreadpool. Ignore the Deadpool Wolverine stuff and look for my logo, and you'll find it. I'm also doing FPV stuff now. I'm adding different things. So there's a lot of stuff. Again, whatever piques my interest, that's what I get into. But we're working on, now that we're getting into 4th of July is over with and we're getting into Halloween season. We've got another channel that we're working on. Death Dealer and I are doing Files of Horror, which is a little bit of what we're doing here and a few other things mixed in. But we're working on trying to get that first start. So we don't know exactly when we're going to do it and stuff like that, but look for it. We'll post stuff like that. And obviously we'll try to bring you guys on too. And again, this is the beauty of the horror community.
Yeah.
We're thick as thieves when it comes to this stuff. You know what I mean?
We're
welcoming and just everything. So it's great. But definitely, for those of you watching, make sure you subscribe to this channel and ring that bell. Make sure that you know every time, because you guys are going to have some great guests. I see it in the future that there's going to be some really good shows. And again, I appreciate the time to have me on here and hang out with you.
Thanks again. Thank you so much for being on, and definitely look forward to you and Death Dealer doing your channel and everything that you guys will have going on in the future. Greatly appreciate it. Also, shout out to Mr. Boomstick XL from Double Barrel Gaming being on here earlier. And we had to leave a little bit earlier, but always appreciate him helping out the community, whether it's gaming or horror or everything in between. Definitely shout out to him. Thank you so much for being on here earlier. Fee, let everybody know where they can find you as well.
So you can see them on YouTube, Ferocious Fee. You can, if you want to email me, it's going to be ferociousfee78 at Gmail. In case you want to, share an event or something like that that's going on, especially during October. We have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm sure our viewers would like, especially outside of the tri-state area of Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey area as well, especially in Canada. I know your conventions are off the hook up there sometimes, I hear. So I'm on Twitter, Ferocious Fee, again, and always you can get me through Fuzzy Belvedere as well. So right tomorrow, we are actually, if anybody has signed up to go to the Tromathon up over at the Mahoan Drive-In, just in case anybody's up there, they have a really great thing up there going on with Tromaville. They're going to have some celebrity guests out there. It's very inexpensive. You can stay, all night until 12 o'clock if you don't want to feel like driving home immediately. And it should be a lot of fun. They have more things going on for this one I've seen in Facebook and stuff like that than I've seen for any of their other events.
Do you have a spare
if you can
couch?
check that out. Well, we do have a couch, but even we have to drive up there like 3 hours. So, but like I said, that's a great idea. There are tons of I'm sure hotels and Airbnbs out there in case anybody wants to do something, because they actually in September, it's actually going to be on a Sunday. They have one of the behind the scenes guys. Theo something or Fabio something going to be out there. They're doing a whole VIP thing for Zombie. You remember the Italian version?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get that information too in case anybody, because this is a rare appearance from this guy. So I will definitely get his full name. I'm not big on like directors and behind the scenes people as much as some other people are, but I'll definitely get that information in case anybody wants to do it, because they have VIP packages for this guy. So what about you, Fuzzy?
Hopefully everybody remembers where to find me as far as for gaming news, but also some horror stuff as well. You can follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. Do several podcasts throughout the week on Double Barrel Gaming as well as Fun Speculations channel. Matter of fact, 10 p.m. later on tonight, we'll be on Xbox Ultimate with Fun Speculation and the family. Hope to see you guys there. If you're into Xbox or gaming in general, definitely check us out. No Shop Podcast tomorrow. And then Pixelated Echoes will rejoin next Tuesday with Lord Cognito and me and 3-Bit. And we'll have some special guests from the podcast community. I believe Fun Speculation or Mav from Fun Speculation will be there as well. So keep an eye out for that for next Tuesday. But always greatly appreciate everybody taking the time, whether to be on the panel or just check us out, listen to us live, or catch us on replay. We always greatly appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any suggestions or comments, hey, just let us know in the comments below. Greatly appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and take care until the next episode of Fright Night with Ferocious Fee.
Take care.